I'll never forget the day I met my friend and mentor, Dr. Stephen R. Covey, who wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. When we met, we had a warm conversation, and at the end of that conversation, Dr. Covey bowed his head, and he placed his right hand on my heart, and he repeated 3 times, "You have a divine destiny." When he said that, I said, "Dr. Covey, what does that mean?" And he said, you in this story, to show how far you've come. People need to know if they work the right process, if they rely on the right principles, they can change anything and become anything they want to be.
New York Times bestselling author, entrepreneur, and professional speaker. Joining me now, Mr. Weldon Long. How are you, Weldon?
How you doing, Mr. Lopez?
Taking steps to make fear actually work for you.
Wally Long hit rock bottom, then he had a moment of clarity, and he chronicles his journey in his new book, The Upside of Fear, how one man broke the cycle.
Weldon Long.
This guy, when you hear his story, you're going to go, well, gee, my deal ain't so bad. Y'all welcome Weldon Long. Woo!
You know, I think maybe because of where I come from in my life, coming from the streets, homelessness, struggling, being the guy, just getting a sales job, trying to build a career, and in the last 15 years working with sales executives and top performers and CEOs at gigantic companies. The reality is, because I've been everywhere in that spectrum, I can relate to everybody on that spectrum. I think that's really important in terms of, getting to people on a very emotional level and getting them to do the things they need to do. I have sales leaders all the time. They'll say, Mr. Long, how can I get my people to do this? How can I make my people do that? And I always tell them, you can't make them. You have to make them want to. Between 87 and 2003, 15 years, 13 of those behind bars. What happened? What changed? On June 10th of 1996, the cop walked in my cell, he kicked my rack, he said, "Long, you need to call home. Your father's died." And on June 10th of 1996, I learned that my father at 59 years old was dead. And I was devastated because I always thought I'd have a chance to make my father proud. And I realized that my dad went to his grave knowing me as a thief and a crook and a liar. I'd never have a chance to change that. And I began to think back to the last conversation I had with my dad. It's 2 weeks before he died. I didn't know it'd be the last time I ever spoke with him. We're talking on the phone. We're just having an average, ordinary conversation. I didn't know that I would never speak to him again. And my dad says to me, trying to cheer me up, my dad says, "Son, it ain't so bad." I'm like, "Seriously, Dad?" He says, "Well, things could be worse." And I said, "Wait a minute. I'm 32 years old. I'm a high school dropout. I'm a career criminal, a career drug addict. I ain't never had a home. I ain't never had a job." By that time in the story, to make things interesting, I had a 3-year-old son that I had abandoned, that didn't know who his daddy was. I said, "How are things going to be any worse, Dad?" He said, "Well, son, you could be dead. You still got a chance." And 2 weeks later, he was gone. And I thought back over those words, and I realized that on my father's deathbed, the nicest thing that he could say to me was, "At least I was alive." He couldn't say, "Well, at least you're a good son to me," because I wasn't. He couldn't say, "Well, at least you're an educated man," because I wasn't. "At least you're a good father to your son," because I wasn't. "At least you're smart," because I wasn't. "At least you're successful," because I wasn't. There was nothing he could say. The nicest thing my father could say about me is, "At least I was alive." You don't get any lower than that. When you get to the bottom of the barrel, kick that bad boy over, and there I was underneath the bottom of the barrel. I was the proverbial fella looking up to see the gutter. That's how bad things were. So you got to ask yourself how. Here's the how. The bottom line is real simple for me. I was so emotionally connected to my dreams, and the sales profession helped me achieve those dreams, right? Personally and professionally. And then when I started training and working with others around the country, and I started seeing them get so emotionally connected, and they start seeing their sales career as the means to get the big dreams they want, right? We can't just show them, go out there and make $100 grand a year. You got to ask them, what are you going to do with that $100 grand a year? Well, I'm going to get out of debt. What are you going to do when you get out of debt? Well, I'm going to buy a house. What are you going to do when you buy a house? I'm going to get a family. So that person's why is the family. You got to get deeply emotionally committed to that house, to that family, right? That will drive sales results, because the sales results become the mechanism, the vehicle to get them what they really want. You got to get down to the raw emotion of what really drives these people. You got to get the prosperity mindset, a mindset that is geared and programmed to thrive in the face of adversity. Let's face it, every time we go on a call, we're going to have clients who want multiple bids. They want to think about it. They want a cheaper price. We got to learn to thrive in the face of those adversities, right? Imagine right here, I had a box. And in that box is everything I need to build a beautiful motorcycle, all the components, all the individual components. And I began to remove the components of that box, piece by piece, component by component. And as I removed the components of that motorcycle, I assembled them properly, right? I didn't just randomly throw them together. I put the wheels where the wheels go and, you know, the engine where the engine goes, et cetera, et cetera. And at some point, I look in the box, and the box is empty. I have successfully and correctly removed the contents of the box and assembled them together. What are the odds when I step back to admire this beautiful mechanical creation? What are the odds I step up to admire and realize I accidentally baked a cake instead of built a motorcycle? You can't bake a cake out of motorcycle parts, can you? What can you build out of a motorcycle? Motorcycle. It ain't rocket science, right? Well, folks, that box is a metaphor for your mind. And every time you make a decision or choice, you remove one of the parts of your life out of the box. You reach in the box, you pull out a decision to do the thing or make the excuse. But when you do that a million times over the course of your life, eventually you get to the end. You get to the end of your life. You get to the end of your business. You get to the end of your relationships. And you look back to admire this beautiful, beautiful creation, whatever it is you built with your life. And you know what you're going to find? Your life is a perfect reflection of whatever's in that box. You cannot focus on wealth and success and prosperity and good relationships and accidentally create poverty and struggle and dysfunctional relationships. Whatever's in your box is coming out. And whatever you focus on is what you're going to create. You're not going to accidentally make something else. So the question is, what's in your box? The sales process has to be simple. The reality is with our customers and with our salespeople, the confused mind says no. You show me a complicated, convoluted sales process, and I'll show you a sales professional who's not using it. They're going to resort to relying on their wit and their skill, which is great, but we all know that, the process is what produces results. Consistent process, consistent sales activities, that's what produces consistent sales results. Random activities produce random results. You know how simple sales is? The first thing we got to do is we got to run every call, every sales opportunity with passion and purpose. And all that entails, right? Passion and purpose. That ain't going in and dropping off a bid and trying to be the cheap guy. That's going in with passion and purpose. The next thing you got to do is you got to focus your profession on diagnosing problems and recommending solutions, period. Salespeople all too often, when a client calls with a problem to which they want to buy a solution, what do? We go in and we focus on that problem and that's it, right? We don't go beyond exactly except what they ask us about. If they call us about a life insurance policy, that's all we talk about. They might need health insurance, retirement for their kids, but they didn't ask about that, so by golly, I'm staying focused on what they called about. And that's what we do as salespeople. We stay focused on the one problem they call us about instead of looking for opportunities to look for other stuff. How would you like it? Suppose you went to a doctor, and let's say you had a shoulder problem. And you walk in, the doctor takes an x-ray of your shoulder. He gives you some little shot to fix your shoulder. Shoulder's good as new. The next day you're walking down the street, you have a massive heart attack, right? Down you go, they take you off the hospital, you survive, but your life is destroyed. You're in ICU for 3 months. The medical bills go through the roof. You're not making any money. Insurance runs out completely. Your family is stressed out and scared to death you're not going to make it. In 3 months in the hospital, your life is complete devastation. You're glad to be alive, but your life has been turned upside down. After about 3 months in ICU, you see the shoulder doctor walking through the hospital. You say, "Hey, shoulder doc, what are you doing?" He looks and sees you all hooked up to tubes and monitors and stuff. He goes, "Man, what happened to you?" And you say, "Doc, it's the craziest thing. The day after you fixed my shoulder, I had a massive heart attack. Almost killed me." He said, "Not surprised. I thought your heart was going to explode the day I fixed your shoulder." And you say, "What? You knew I was fixing to have a massive heart attack?" He goes, "Yeah, your heart was skipping beats. I didn't know how you were going to make it home." And you say, "Doctor, why in the hell did you not tell me I was fixing to have a heart attack?" And the doctor says to you, "Hey, buddy, you came to see me about your shoulder. How would you feel about your doctor?" Right? Be yanking out tubes and stuff. I'd be going after him. He'd be in ICU for it, though, right? The bottom line is we expect the professionals in our lives, to address problems that we may not know about. That's their job. If you're going on a sales call for a health insurance policy, but you see they're fixing to have a heart attack in their life insurance, then bring it to their attention. You don't have to sell them nothing. Just say, "Hey, what else is going on? Is it something you'd like me to fix for you?" Diagnose problems or recommend solutions. All too often in sales, you know what we do? We try to do the prospect's job for them. The prospect's job is to buy or not to buy. Your job is to diagnose the problems, recommend solutions, and shut up. Don't decide for them what they can and can't afford. So the heart doctor makes his recommendations based on your heart condition, right? He doesn't check your insurance. He doesn't check your bank. That's not his business. I'm a physician. I'm going to diagnose every problem you have. I'm going to recommend solutions based on your problems. I got no issue with your budget. Now, ultimately, I may have to find a solution in your budget, but my first recommendation will not be in your budget. We got to make sure that we're inspiring people, giving them simple tools. The confused mind says no. It's true for your customers. It's true for salespeople. We got to give them simple tools that they can implement instantaneously and see massive results. It's like Leo Tolstoy said once, service is the true meaning of life.